Welcome, class of 2021 students and families. It is my pleasure to open up this meeting today. In the past 3 years, we've struggled, thrived, celebrated, planned, and we're here to the beginning of your senior year. Normally, we would be sitting in the auditorium on a warm May day, ready to take in all of this exciting information. However, today, the silver lining is you're sitting at home, comfortable in your PJs or sweats. So grab a snack, grab a notepad, and let's get started. As we explore your excellence today, we want to continue to keep our CAHS norms in mind. Things will look differently as we transition between virtual and in-person learning and meeting. I wanted to highlight a few norms so that we are all on the same page. Be present. Being present will definitely look different. It will mean being responsible for viewing information before a meeting to streamline and provide efficient time for questions. Being live and engaged during online meetings is also important for your peers, as well as the teacher or presenter. No one wants to talk to blank screens. And communicating your needs. This will also be more effective if you have ensured you viewed all available resources before making decisions. Please be sure to follow up with us if you do not hear back. We are doing our best to answer all emails within 48 hours. If there is something you need, do not hesitate to reach out. We may just have overlooked that detail, which also leads to assuming best intentions. We are all learning along the way. If something does not seem right, please ask. We appreciate your feedback and suggestions, so please communicate your needs, as they may also help someone else. And last but most importantly, during this time and all of your senior year, have healthy habits. Ensure balance, be mindful of your deadlines, practice self-care, and work on things without distractions. Give yourself rewards and take a break, but please make sure those breaks are equal to tasks completed. The IB Learner Profile. Be reflective, think, take a risk, care, be open-minded. Those are just a few of the attributes we hope each cosmic scholar embodies. The CAHS community values the IB Learner Profile and hopes to cultivate lifelong learners who contribute to their communities. Please review the traits, identify your strengths, and some areas for growth. Throughout this year, we encourage you to utilize these traits as you develop your independence and reflect upon and prepare for your post-secondary experience. Keep them in mind as you listen to the remainder of this presentation. The next 2 slides you view will provide a short overview of what you can find within this video.
Okay, let's talk about social and emotional support during senior year. Senior year is very stressful. You're going to have a lot on your plate. So the key thing, number 1, ask for help. If you start to spiral, if you start to have a hard time with work, if you're not able to get things in, if you feel like you're overwhelmed by deadlines, ask your teachers, ask staff, ask your administrators, ask the counselors, ask us for help. We're here for you. That means you have to communicate. So you can't suffer in silence. You have to actually speak up and you have to communicate with everybody to make sure that we're all on the same page. We know where your struggle is and we can help you get through it. So the other part too that I think is huge at CAHS, and I like to joke that because we don't have sports, procrastination is like our varsity sport at CAHS. I don't know what it is about our school, but procrastination is incredibly popular. Avoid it senior year. You're going to have so much to do. Don't let it snowball because you're procrastinating getting something completed. It makes it so much worse. And in keeping with that, make sure you have timelines of things that you need to complete. It's super satisfying to go through and check off things on your timeline of things that you've completed. Make sure you have some non-academic joy in your life, whatever that may look like to you. Whether that's watching a movie, playing video games, getting outside, taking a walk with a dog, whatever it may be, do some things that are not academic related. Have some fun. Getting physical, super important for everybody. Doing something to kind of release some of that stress that you carry all day. Whether it's taking a walk, doing yoga, lifting weights, whatever it may be, Getting physical is super helpful. We think it's really important too to reach out to your peers and start to build a really good support system, especially in your classes. It's really helpful to have a whole text group to say like, hey, I didn't understand what, so-and-so wanted us to do for this project. Then you can talk to other people and get some good feedback. And I think the biggest thing too, in terms of when you feel overwhelmed and it gets all a bit too much, is to take a step back and get some help with perspective. It's incredibly important to do that because in your head, it feels huge. But if you talk to somebody else, take a step back, write down the musts completes for the week, you can get some good perspective on what you really actually have to do. We're here for you. It's going to be a good year.
Good afternoon. Each of you in the class of 2021 completed your course requests on March 4th. For those who were unable to complete the course requests for their senior year on March 4th, we had the opportunity to follow up individually with each of you. Know that we continue to work in terms of course sequences, but we would like to let you know at this time there are some remaining graduation requirements that we would like for you to be aware of in terms of diploma types. For the Diploma of Distinction, all students, in order to meet the Diploma of Distinctions, will have 4 science courses, 4 English courses, 4 math courses, 4 social studies courses, and at least 3 years of the same world language. The Diploma of Specialization is offered to students who have completed at least 5 credits in the same content area. There are numerous state honors diplomas as well in different diploma types that I would advise each of you to look through. One of which is the Ohio Honors Diploma, which lists a variety of metrics that must be met in order to receive the Ohio Honors Diploma. All but one of those metrics must be met. The most important commonality, which will continue, is to do the best that we can do. And to lend to this end, we are going to continue your senior year to ensure that we grow as much as possible, including in the academic domain. So we'd like to encourage each of you to expand our growth in a rigorous course load. And while there may be an opportunity of graduation requirements met, there also may be an opportunity for graduation requirements met, and then I also decided to take these courses in addition to the requirements. So we will continue as a team to encourage each and every one of you to select rigorous coursework that will truly increase your academic development. After completing the March 4th ACT, we had the opportunity to discuss some of the aspects of the Common application, frequently referred to as the Common App. At this point, I would like to describe resources, updates, and a general overview of the Common App. After we met, there have been many, many changes to our world. One of the additional aspects that I wanted to share was the student support section adopted through the Common application. If you'd like to utilize the link on the slide, it breaks down specifically some of the supports that are being offered through the Common application and updates both on the website and on a daily updated blog, offering student support in terms of everything of college readiness to testing and student planning. So I would advise, while it's important that we recognize the structural components of the Common App, to also see how some of the resources align with our current needs as well. With the recent changes in our world, from reviewing the Common application, there have been some changes as well. A primary question that you may or may not decide to answer in 250 words or less, the impact that this current situation has had on each of you, your plans, your education, access, This is an opportunity for each student to utilize these experiences as it may connect to your post-secondary endeavors. Please know always, the difficulty in our circumstances often lend to a bridge to share our strengths. And so we may utilize this time as well for that opportunity, but know that's exactly why we have recommendations, teacher-based, counselor-based, questions, essays. All of those can be avenues where we can continue to share our experiences to college admissions representatives. So the common application, we've referred to this terminology for students that do decide. This is one of numerous ways that students may apply to post-secondary institutions. The common application really developed in the art of efficiency and effectiveness is in a way for students who decide to utilize the Common App to apply to over 800 schools, colleges, and universities. And this allows you to apply to multiple colleges and universities using a similar approach rather than conducting and duplicating to universities independently. Once again, there are numerous options. As your support staff, we will continue to work collaboratively with Ms. Moore, College Advising Manager, in terms of which application process aligns with your specific needs. But due to the large number and the benefits, we wanted to at least reintroduce the common application to you as well. So it's going to allow you to, some schools, not all. And so now would be another opportunity when we review the parts of the application more specifically, where some of you will want to continue to kind of get used to that navigation using the login and your email, just to kind of continue to familiarize yourself with the different aspects, generally speaking, of the common application. As many of you know, we have different accounts, different logins, different emails, and it can be difficult to keep track. The importance of keeping track will increase throughout the next 14 months. And so one of the things we've learned from doing this previous years is making sure to use a proper email and password that we will remember when we log in to the commonapp.org. And that's www.commonapp.org. Once again, our intent today is to introduce you to the unique ways that students may decide to apply to schools. While we did a brief interview of the common application, before we go into the particular sections, also wanted to talk about the Common Black application, the HBCU Common App. Over 55 HBCUs are represented on the Common application. Some HBCUs are also on the Common App. So we need to discern if we're interested in applying to the HBCUs, if they are on the specific HBCU application, or if they align with the common application. Once again, noting the efficiency and the effectiveness, students will pay a $35 application fee and then have the opportunity, utilizing the same application process, to select different schools and universities.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the different parts of the Common App. It's pretty straightforward when you look at it. Profile, which is your demographic information, family information, your education, testing, your ACT or SAT scores, activities, your resume, those kind of things that you want to add in there, writing, which would be your essay, and then the fee or fee waiver that you might have. It seems very straightforward. However, if you've begun to look at the Common App already, there's a lot of questions, especially in the family info section, that a lot of people get a little bit stuck on. We've included the link to the Common App that has some really good resources to help you kind of navigate how to fill out each of those sections and things that you should get together before you even sit down to do it. The next slide here that talks about some of the different Common App resources. This was a great PDF that they have on the website that you can download, and it's called Gather Your Materials. So this is a sheet that helps you go through and get all the stuff you're going to need to have to be able to fill out the Common App completely. which some of those things you may not really think about, like your parents' email, where they went to college, where they work, your high school information, what our SEEB code is, if you don't know what that is, what classes you've taken. That's another good thing too. An unofficial transcript is super helpful, especially schools like Ohio State. They make you put all of those classes in. So that website that we showed you on the last slide is going to have tons of these types of resources, and even some nice, kind of worksheets that tell you, that have you go through and fill out what your school specifically may need, whether it needs an essay or not, whether it needs testing scores to be sent or not, letters of recommendation. So there's a lot of really helpful pieces to that to help you complete each of these parts of the Common Application.
Okay, so the next section we're going to talk about paying for college applications and college funding. So once you submit your college application on the Common App and you do qualify for waivers, which means you submitted a financial verification form to us, then you just need to fill out the waiver section of the Common App and your school counselor will approve your waiver. And if you do not want to submit an application on the Common App, then you need to come see your school counselor, or I Know I Can, and we will send the university a waiver for you. But you need to see us. And sometimes a university may have a waiver code that you can use to pay for your college application. So if you do not qualify for waivers, I Know I Can will pay for 3 of your college applications. Again, if you do not qualify for a waiver, I Know I Can will pay for up to 3. So please see me, Ms. Moore, at least 2 weeks in advance so we can plan that out, because we will pay for that for you. Next, we're going to talk about financial aid. So financial aid is basically funds that are going to be used to pay for your post-secondary education. And your financial aid is going to come from 4 sources, potentially. The U.S. federal government, the state government, the institution that you are applying to, or a private organization such as a church, employer, or a nonprofit such as I Know I Can. So there's going to be 2 different types of, or categories of financial aid. The first one is need-based, and that's strictly just based on your family's financial and living situation. And that will come from the FAFSA. We'll talk about that next. And then the second category is going to be merit-based. So this type of aid is strictly based on your accomplishment. So that can be your GPA, your test scores, rigor of coursework, extracurricular activities. So next, again, when we're thinking about need-based aid, that is usually determined by what you fill out on the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. And it's issued by the U.S. Department of Education, and you have to complete it every academic year, and it drops on October 1st of every school year. And then you can send it to all the schools that you're applying to, and then they will determine what type of aid you can receive based on need. And we really encourage that students complete this before you guys go on winter break. So if there's an issue with your FAFSA, we can catch it and we have time to make corrections. And there's going to be different types of financial aid that you will receive based on FAFSA and other avenues that you may apply for aid. And one of these is going to be your scholarships. This is aid that you do not pay back. Loans, this is aid that you do pay back, and it can come through a subsidized federal loan, unsubsidized federal loan, a Parent Plus loan, or a private loan. And we'll talk about those more during the summer. And then, of course, there are also grants, which you do not have to pay back, and then work study, which is basically you working on campus just a few hours a week. We'll talk about that too. Again, I want to reiterate that it's so important that you all save, because even though there's lots of different aid out there, most of the time it's not going to cover 100% of your education. So you want to be able to meet that gap and not have such a huge burden that you have to meet immediately. So definitely save over the summer and next year so that that won't be such of a burden for you all.
Okay, so now we are going to talk about your entrance exams that go with your college application, which is either going to be the ACT or the SAT. Now we know that with the situation we're in right now with COVID-19, there are some changes. We're going to talk about those changes a little bit later, but that also doesn't apply to every school. So depending on where you're applying, this information is still going to be relevant to your application. So most students either take the ACT or the SAT. I listed a couple of differences on the slide. If you go to Princeton Review or College Board, you can see a full list of every difference and every similarity. Some students do find that they have a stronger score in one test versus the other. That's really going to depend student to student. If you're curious, you could take one of each and see maybe the ACT is really a stronger test for you. However, regardless of which test you take, you're going to want to take that test at least twice. That's going to show you your score, your ability to improve your score, and some schools allow you to super score, which means they'll take the best score of each section of your ACT and combine it. And if they do, that's going to give you different opportunities. And a lot of times, not only does your score impact admissions, but the different tiers for scholarships and money from the school is impacted by your ACT or SAT score. So that's something good to keep in mind. If you're concerned about paying for your ACT or your SAT, there are fee waivers available depending on whether you qualify. Ms. Moore has more information about that. I have her email on this slide, or I know I can advise her, but there are potentially up to 3 ACT waivers and 4 SAT waivers per student. So email her if you have questions about that, and she will give you all of that information. And finally, we want to talk about sending your scores to schools. So the best way to do this is when you register for your test, your ACT or your SAT, there will be an option there to send up to 4 schools your score automatically. This is great because it doesn't cost anything. There's also a window of time immediately after the test where you can send your score for free, but once it goes beyond that window, it costs about $15 per school, which nobody wants that. So when you register for the test, if you know a few schools that you are going to apply to, even if it's June and you're still kind of figuring it out, just put those schools in and send them even if you don't end up applying there. Because if you do, that's going to save you money down the road. So now we're going to talk about how COVID-19 is impacting all of this. As you've probably heard, a lot of schools are moving to test optional. Now what that means is it's optional to send your score, and the score is not required as part of your admission. Now, I listed some of the major Ohio schools. A lot of them are moving to test optional, some of them aren't. Ohio State main campus right now is not test optional. So it's really going to depend on looking at information, talking to your counselor or to Ms. Moore, and getting up-to-date information, because this is still subject to change. We don't know if summer ACT or SATs could be canceled or not. We don't know if schools are still going to be changing their admission process in the fall. So just continuing to keep up with information on the school's website. If you had an admissions counselor at the school that you got contact information with, they're going to be a good source of information, and also your counseling team and Ms. Moore. So now we are going to talk about getting your letters of recommendation requested and sent with your application. Now this is going to be potentially a little bit more of a process than some other parts of your application because, surprise, surprise, you're not the only one working on it. So we're going to do just an overview of the process to get them sent with your application and a good timeline to do so. If you find yourself having a lot of questions, there is going to be a summer workshop on letters of recommendation, and that might be a good idea for you. So the first thing you'll want to think about with your letters of recommendation is your audience, so the person reading your application. If you are applying and you say your intended major is biology, for example, it probably makes sense to have at least one teacher letter of recommendation in the science department. That'll give the person reading it more information about, is science a strength of yours? Is it something you're really passionate about? Now, obviously, that might not be the only thing you're interested in, so not every letter has to be from a science teacher, but it makes sense to have at least one letter in the field or the department of what you're intending to go into. So most schools will only need 2 teacher letters of recommendation and 1 counselor letter of recommendation. That's all that's required on the Common App, which we talked about earlier, and that's all most schools will need. Some schools might need more, and there will be an opportunity for you to get more if you need them, but that should cover you for most things. So now we're going to talk about the process to get your letters. So first, what you're going to do is fill out the letter of recommendation request form. It's a little bit different this year. Last year, you might have seen seniors walking around with a piece of paper and then they had to talk to their teacher. Now, with everything that's been going on spring, how that could potentially impact the fall, we decided to move to a Google form to make this A, more accessible to you guys during the summer, B, more accessible if we have to continue blended learning in the fall, and C, change the form to make it a little bit more comprehensive for teachers to write better letters of recommendation for you guys. So I'm going to show kind of a screenshot of what the first part of the form looks like now.
So you are going to go to tinyurl.com/CAHS That's CAHS, CAHS, Recs, capital RECS. And that's going to take you to the letter of recommendation request form. So, first thing I want to point out, you'll want to fill this out in one sitting. And so, even if you want to peep onto some of the other pages to get the questions beforehand from certain subjects and then go back to them, that would be potentially a good idea. So on this first page, this is going to be the same no matter who you're asking for letters of recommendation from. The first thing they're going to want is to upload your most current resume. And so whether that's from Naviance, whether you have something separately, something that lists your job experience, your internships, all that good stuff, you're going to upload that here. And then it has 2 spots for you to pick an IB learner profile trait. And so you're going to pick one of these and then explain how you've grown in that selected trait over your high school career. So you're going to do that for 2 of the traits, then explain what you're involved in outside of school, and then you'd pick a department. So if you want Miss Thornburg to write your letter of recommendation, then you will click on Humanities, and it will take you to the humanities. Obviously, you have to answer these before you move on. But each subject is going to have specific questions that relate to their subject. And so that'll help them write a really comprehensive letter for you. So you would fill that out. And then once you are done with the humanities, you can jump to another subject. You can jump to the counselor letter, and you'll be able to fill them all out at once. So that is how you fill out the letter of recommendation request form.
So once you are done filling out the request form, you're also going to want to make sure that you go onto Naviance and list that teacher as the request letter for the school that you're applying to. That's important because that is how they're going to submit the letter to the school. And then finally, you want to follow up either via email, via face-to-face, depending on the time of year and where we're at, just to check in and see that they got your request, that if they have any questions about anything on your application. Now we'll talk about the timeline. When should I be doing this? So over the summer is going to be an ideal time. A, because you're not going to be balancing it with other classes. B, because it gives teachers the most time possible. Obviously, some of you guys might not know what schools you're applying to or even what major or what field of work, but having those letters kind of done and in your back pocket is going to make the process a lot easier. So we'll say summer is ideal and then kind of gradually moving towards October, November. But the last thing we want to make sure we don't do is to send letters or requests for letters a couple of weeks before. We want at least 2 weeks advance for teachers to write letters. So if your application is due November 1st, we shouldn't be seeing you like October 28th. So think about the timeline. It doesn't have to be right this second, but between the summer and September is going to be ideal. So once you're done sending out your letter of recommendation form, you're going to want to make sure that you also send the request on Naviance, because that is the way that your teacher is going to submit that letter to your school. Now, if you have a specific teacher that you would like to have the letter sent to first, or if you're applying to a school that only needs one teacher letter of recommendation, make sure you have that teacher listed with that school.
Hello, class of 2021. This is Mrs. Foley, and I'm here to chat with you about your IB English summer reading. Both of the assignments, regardless of which course you are taking next year, will be released on May 26th on the Google Classroom page, right? The class of 2021's classroom. Please remember, you are, for the most part, going to continue which course you had from junior year, right? So if you were in standard level, then you'll be continuing into standard level 12. And for that, we will be reading Chronicle of a Death Foretold by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Some of you may have begun that this spring, but due to the virus, we want to make sure that you have a very good foundation of this work so that you can be as successful as possible in your oral commentary or individual oral that is coming up. If you took higher level last year, most likely you are continuing into higher level this year. And if that is you, the work that you will be studying is Running in the Family by Michael Ondaatje. Some of people may be switching from higher to standard or standard to higher, but I know that that number is quite limited, and you would already know that and be in conversation with your teachers, mainly Dr. Jones, Ms. Sochek, or Ms. Harris. Regardless of whichever course assignment you are receiving or will be completing this summer, our goal is to prepare you for that IB oral that will be happening quite early in the fall, as it was supposed to happen in the spring this year, but we've had some problems with that, haven't we? So we're going to work on the IB oral. We're also going to continue that IB English curriculum with these new works. And we're also going to be asking you to do some very important senior milestones here, like draft a college essay and such. So you're going to get all the details for this assignment on May 26th. And that last bullet there is kind of something interesting to think about. We do always recommend that you have a hard copy of the book so that you can annotate and keep, especially because now our IB English assessments, you're going to have to return to these works several times. However, if you elect to do or use the PDF version of the works, whereas I know many people are doing that, the Google extension Kami is really quite helpful because it allows you to annotate a PDF. So that may be something you want to explore if you are electing to utilize PDFs for reading. I can't wait to start a year with you, and we'll see you soon.
Now to talk about internships, resumes, and personal statements. You'll notice that this year your resume is part of your IB English summer work. That was intentional. We wanted to partner with your English teachers to ensure that every student has a robust resume going into senior year, both for college and scholarship applications, as well as career and internship. So please refer to the guidelines set forth by Ms. Foley and Ms. Harris, and know that this summer we'll be providing individualized help and video tutorials to help students through that process. The personal statement would be a great thing for you to work on as you're thinking about what's next, what internship you might be applying for, why you think that you're interested in that particular field, what skills you hope to learn at that. Remember, the personal statement distills maybe a story of your earliest memory of when you knew you wanted to explore something. And so I encourage you again to visit the internship website to get more specific information about writing a personal statement. Internship this year may look a little different, and we're considering various models for how this might look for students. I do encourage you to join the Google Classroom. The code is found at the bottom of the screen. And through there, you'll find the mentor and family agreement forms once you've secured an internship site. The deadline is going to be flexible. We haven't set that in place yet. We're waiting to see how the year starts. Throughout the year, I'm asking that you consider where your professional skills are right now, goal setting. We're going to assemble a professional portfolio, build your technology skills, engage in financial literacy and planning, and reflect on opportunities for growth and shared successes. When you're reaching out to partners, please be mindful that some of our partners might be furloughed or on some kind of extended leave from their place of employment or dealing with other issues due to COVID-19. And we're hoping that all of our partners can get back to work, get back to a sense of normalcy. But in this process, please do be considerate of that. Internship your senior year. You can choose if you would like to return to a site for a second year. We realize that your internship experience during junior year was cut short drastically due to COVID-19. So if you want to go back and continue to build on those professional relationships, we encourage this. But we also want to continue to stretch you and help you grow in those skills acquisitions that are going to help you for what's next in college and career. So here are some questions to consider for choosing an internship. What skills do I already have? How do I want to develop my skills? How do I want to grow as a human being? I think this is a question we often don't ask, especially when we're considering a career, but do I want to give back through community service, or do I want to engage in some kind of research? How can I improve my social emotional learning competencies? So we're going to talk about this a lot along with the IB Learner Profile. So I like to use the CAHS Foundation Social Emotional Learning Competencies, which would be social awareness, self-awareness, relationships, responsible decision-making, and self-management. Some of these perfectly align as well with the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal. So these are going to be key documents that we're going to follow, that I will help guide you in your personal growth throughout your senior year.
This fall, all of you will be engaging in some level of IB and or AP courses. And so I just wanted to have you pay attention to the date of when those course registrations close, and cancellations after those date will incur a fee. So November 15th is the registration deadline for AP and IB, and if all goes smoothly, we'll have you registered well before that. But if you do choose to drop those courses after that deadline passes, it will incur a fee, and you can see the relative fees for AP and IB on this slide. As well, I want you to pay attention to your IA deadlines that your teachers give out this year, because those are really crucial to meet for internal assessments. Obviously, this year we don't quite know how it will play out, and so we need to be a little bit flexible, but we also need to be working together to make sure that AP and IB requirements and deadlines are met, so that we don't overwhelm ourselves, our teachers, and so that we can be really productive this year. So if there are changes to these dates, I will update you, obviously, but I'm really excited to see you this fall.
As we conclude this video, I want to just talk about quickly our summer workshop opportunities for students. These are for the class of 2021, and they are opportunities to help you prepare for your senior year and most of the college planning process. If you have any questions regarding these, please reach out to any member of your Cohort 2021 team. The dates are listed on the screen, and all information will be posted to the 2021 Google Classroom. Thank you so much for viewing this video. We really would like to collect your contact information and a little bit of other information regarding this video and the future. So on the screen, you will find a link to a form that will need to be filled out by the end of the school year. Thank you.